Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. Today you got me and James. James has been away for a while. How you doing, James?
I'm good. It's great to be back. Very,
Yeah.
very excited because we've got a lot of brilliant cricket to come.
Yeah.
Test cricket, which
Test cricket.
I've
Yeah.
missed it a lot. I've really missed it. And if you are an Indian or an Australian or any other nationality, you should hit subscribe because we are going to be covering the World Test Championship today and in a couple of days, and also Ashes cricket. So
Yes.
that's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and we've got some fun collabs coming as well. So yeah, some good stuff on the horizons.
Some new branding as well.
Yes, some new branding for the channel on the horizon as well.
Yeah.
We said we'd do it at 1,000 subscribers, and we are currently at over 2,000. So we've been we've been we've been building in innings. All
Yeah.
right, we've been taking our time, Dom Sibleying the the progression on the rebrand, but
Yeah.
it will come very soon. So
That'll be
keep an
great.
eye out for that.
Yeah. Should we just get into this then? Because it's a mouth-watering prospect that we've got on our hands here. India versus Australia, the two best test playing nations of the last few years. And it's interesting because this cycle started with Kohli as India's captain and is ending with Rohit Sharma as the captain. And for Australia, they started the cycle with Tim Payne as their captain. And now they've got Pat Cummins as their captain. So it's quite interesting. We've seen some changes in leadership, but we've also seen some very interesting teams put forward. See how they do in the English conditions. And why don't we start with looking at India, and in particular their top order, because Shubman Gill, Shubbers, as we call him on the channel,
Yeah.
he is in incredibly good form in 2020 cricket, but that generally translates all right into other forms of cricket. So he is looking very good at the top of the order. Whereas Rohit Sharma, he's not in very good form. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about those two and certain ideas that India could look at there.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a difficult one because with a lot of the test players, they don't play a lot of red ball cricket outside of test matches. So you have to go off their white ball form, and for a lot of it, it doesn't actually carry over that well. Shubbers, I think, is in outstanding form. He's been in a purple patch for a little while. Obviously, a huge talent. So I don't think there's a whole lot to worry about with him, except he hasn't played in England before. So seeing how he goes when it is swinging a bit more, perhaps, might be interesting. Rohit has got an incredible record in England, and
he did very well last time, didn't he?
last time they came over, that he was absolutely brilliant. But you're right, he has been in poor form, and I think there is an element of translation across the formats to how well you're batting. Like if you're doing well in T20s, you have a better chance of doing well in tests, just because it's all about, like, if you strip it back to the absolute basics, it's how well you're seeing the ball, how well you're reacting, and if you're putting it in the gaps. And for a large part, Gill has been doing that. KOHLI, interestingly, has been doing that as well.
Yeah.
And so it'll be really exciting to see how those guys, do against what is an incredibly strong Australian attack and incredibly strong in English conditions. But quick conversation point on the oval, because we know that Ben Stokes basically put out a plea a couple of months ago saying to all of the county grounds, please make them fast and flat, because we want to play baseball. How do you think that's going to affect the Australian bowling attack against India?
Well, it depends on if the wicket's bouncy, because in Australia you get those drop-in pitches which offer a lot of pace and bounce, and the Aussies are very good with that. So if there's a bit of something in the pitch, then the Aussie bowlers will fancy themselves, especially Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood. They're all that sort of bowler. which will cause issues for the Indian batsmen. However, if the pitches are like Aussie pitches, India have won their last 2 series in Australia anyway. So I don't think it will concern them too much. For me, it depends on how well India will react to someone like a Scott Boland, who, if he was English, he'd have the same amount of wickets as Jimmy Anderson probably, because he's just that good. So yeah, I think it would be interesting to see how they play him, especially their middle order, because India in recent history, their middle order has struggled. Cheteshwar Pujara hasn't been 100% at number 3. Kohli hasn't scored a test match. Well, didn't he score a test match 100 recently? Or is it? It's been a while since he's got. I can't remember if he scored one recently.
Yeah, I don't know if he's actually scored a test match one.
Yeah,
I can't remember now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to.
We'll have to get our facts right. And then at Jinky Rahane, I reckon I'm quite happy to see him come back in at number 5. Maybe that's just the IPL bias talking, since he's come back and surprised everyone. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how their middle order bats against those Aussie bowlers, because at the moment Australia will be thinking, we get 1 early, we open the doors, it could be an easy win for us. So that's what I'm interested to see. Who do you reckon is going to keep then out of Ishan Kishan and KS Barrett? Because they've used KS Barrett recently, but do you reckon it's time to give Ishan Kishan a go?
It's a difficult question. I think if the pitches are fast and flat, if they are relatively true, I think it could be really worth playing Ishan Kishan, because I think he's got a higher ceiling than KS Barrett. He's probably not as good a wicket keeper, but as far as batting goes, I think he probably is better.
Yeah,
and I think if I purely from a neutral perspective, or if I imagine them playing England, I would be more scared if Ishan Kishan walked out to bat than if KS Barrett walked out to bat.
Yeah,
and I think it's because he offers, similar to a Rishabh Pant, where he could take the game away from you.
He could.
Now he's not proven on the test stage, certainly not. But just from a intimidation and skill cap and everything, I would play Ishan Kishan personally.
I mean,
just quickly, sorry.
Go for it.
KOHLI,
yeah,
did score a big old century, test century against Australia. He got that 186.
That's when we got lots of views, right?
Probably,
yeah.
That's how it works.
But just on Ishan Kishan, his first class record isn't that bad. He's played 48 matches and he averages 38, which as a keeper, that's pretty much what you want. And he scored 6 centuries, so he's not. It's nothing new for him to score big scores as a keeper. But yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a much better batting option than Stricker Barrett. So I would like to see Ishan Kishan get a go. The last thing really for India, because I think they're bowling, we're going to see Mohammad Shami. We're going to see Shardul Thakur, I reckon, in English conditions. It then becomes, well, who's your third seamer? And are they going to play Ravi Ashwin? Because they don't play Ravi Ashwin in England, do they? But
no, they've got a thing about it. He hasn't got a great record in England, in fairness, but he also hasn't bowled in England recently, so he hasn't had an opportunity to improve that record. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what balance they go for, because Jadeja is almost certainly going to play because he offers that batting as well. And so will they play the extra seamer, or will they use Jadeja as the sole all-rounder to balance the side and then just play all seamers, or will they go for their strength, which is playing more spin, because they've got probably 3 of the best test spinners in the world right now.
Patel as well, right?
And that again, it adds batting. That's the thing with their spinners. I I can list off tons of Indian spinners that are incredible. But the three that are most likely to play in Axar Patel, Ravi Ashwin, and Ravi Jadeja are all very accomplished batters.
Yeah.
Someone I think would be a brilliant shout that would actually take a lot of wickets is Kuldeep Yadav. But he didn't
not in the squad.
Yeah, he didn't even get a look in.
No.
So, what do I know?
You want Sarfaraz Khan playing.
Sarfaraz Khan, yeah. So, if I was an Indian selector, there's the statement of the day. Then I would be picking a slightly different bowling attack. But yeah, I think in general they've got a good squad, but I think there wouldn't be harm in picking an extra spinner because
they
are just so good. It's the Oval. Yeah.
The Oval is the best wicket for spin, the most conducive wicket for spin in the country.
Outside of Somerset, maybe.
Oh yeah, probably. But I reckon, yeah, you're likely to see a second spinner played, whether it's Ashwin or Axar Patel. I know Ashwin generally is bowled well against Steve Smith. He's got a good record against him, so they might think about that matchup as well. So yeah, for me, they need to go 3 seamers, 2 spinners. That's kind of my thinking, especially if it's flat. And I would pick, personally, I'd pick Mohammad Siraj as a third seamer. He's coming off a great IPL.
I would as well.
He's a great bowler. And he's done well against Australia. So the matchups are key, aren't they, really? But looking at Australia then, there's a few question marks there, because at the top of the order, you've got Marcus Harris and David Warner, and you've also got Usman Khawaja. They're like your 3 opening batters, really, in this squad, unless Usman Khawaja bats 3, but that's usually Labuschagne's spot. The question mark then is David Warner gonna do well? Because Marcus Harris isn't the best replacement in the world, is he? Yeah, it's a hard one.
I definitely think that Australia's top order is the biggest question mark for them. And in general, their batting hasn't been that great recently.
No.
I think, 3 and 4, Labuschagne and Smith nailed down, incredibly good players. And, they'll have DRS. So no matter what you've seen in the county championship, it's not going to be that easy to get Steve Smith out.
No, definitely not.
And so it is the top order that is the big question mark. David Warner, I think as soon as anybody goes around the wicket, he'll start getting those flashbacks from 2019. Usman Khawaja doesn't have a great record in England either, but I think he's more nailed on. He's been in stellar form.
Yeah.
And I could actually see him doing very well. Marcus Harris, I'm not convinced by him as a replacement. I mean, he's obviously very good, and I think I'd take him as an opener for England. But yeah, it's I think we're going to see Khawaja and Warner open, and it'll be really interesting, especially as England fans with the context of the Ashes just around the corner, seeing how Warner and Khawaja shape up against some pretty decent seamers. Especially if they decide to go round the wicket and like a Stuart Broad kind of emulator, and see how Warner does.
What about the middle order then? Because they've got Travis Head, who's in very good form. He's been doing very well in Test cricket recently, and they've also got Cameron Green at 6, who seems to be going from strength to strength. He's had an amazing IPL. He's looking very good. Do you reckon he's the best all-rounder in cricket at the moment, potentially?
Yes. This is my hot take.
Okay.
That Cameron Green, at the moment, from what I can think of, is the only genuine all-rounder in Test match cricket. And that is, he is the only person that I can think of that I would put in my World 11 side, or my international side, as a batter and separately as a bowler. And the fact that he does both just shows his utility.
What about
What
about Jadeja? Because he's batting really well. He's probably been
pretty well.
Top 10 batters in the last few years.
Yeah. So I'd say there's like a second tier, which Jadeja's probably on, and then maybe a third tier. We've got like
Ben Stokes,
Axar Patel, and maybe Stokes if he's not injured. But the issue is Stokes is in. Yeah. And then like Jadeja, it is his batting. You know, he just he's a good batter, but I don't know if he's in the top 6 batters in India. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the fact that he does bowl to such an incredible level is the reason that he gets in. But I think if it was just his batting compared to Shreyas Iyer's, compared to Ishan Kishan and Sarfaraz Khan, I don't know if he gets in. No. That's my hot take. But yeah, Cameron Green, I think, offers so much to Australia, especially in English conditions, because we saw how good a seamer he was in Australia. And you know, when it's seaming around and it's swinging, he can utilize that. And he's so tall, and he bowls with good pace. T20 doesn't seem to be his best format for bowling, but Test match certainly is. And if I was India, I'd be terrified.
However, I know we're talking about the World Test Championship final, but I reckon Cameron Green will be the one who England target in the Ashes. And I think for India, you can't just let Cameron Green bowl at you when he's that young. He's still pretty inexperienced in Test match cricket. You've got to take him on, as well as Nathan Lyon. If you let him settle into a line and length, he'll rip through you. You've got to take him on because the rest of Australia's bowlers, they're not going to give you much. I mean, Michael Neser, he's been doing very well in county championship cricket. He's great in English conditions. He's probably going to play. You've also got Pat Cummins, who's the captain, who's incredible. And then you've got Scott Boland, who I've already said he looks born to play in English conditions. So,
and what about Mitchell Starc as well?
That's your 3. Mitchell Starc, I think Australia will save him for the Ashes. I know Hazelwood's not in the squad because he's injured. Mentioned him earlier, but he's gonna be in England because they're hoping he'll be all right for the Ashes. But yeah, it's looking like Australia have very good bowlers. And I think it'll be a tricky for those Indian batsmen. Who do you think is going to win then? Let's get straight to it.
Ooh. If I was a betting man, I would be putting my money on Australia. I think it's the safer bet.
Yeah.
But as I think who I want to win is different. And I think it's so hard. It is really difficult. Realistically, I think Australia are going to win.
Okay.
But I'm really interested to see what other people think. So leave it in the comments, you know, what you all think. What about you?
I think it's going to be India. And my reason for saying this is because I think Australia see this as a bit of a warm-up for the Ashes. I don't think they really care about the World Test Championship as much as, say, India do. I think India, this is kind of like we're coming to England to win this game. And I think
they need that silverware as well.
Yeah, I think India will have more of a drive about winning this game, whereas Australia probably won't. Saying that Australia are good at just winning everything, they're just, the history says that they're good at winning. So it'll be interesting. It definitely won't be. Well, I hope it will be a close game. That's what I'm looking for. Yes. I don't want it to be a walkover from a team. But we look forward to it. It starts on Tuesday, and yeah, promises to be a great game. So stay tuned because, like James said at the start, we're going to be bringing you lots of podcasts on the World Test Championship final. So make sure you leave your comments. Let us know who's going to win. Let us know who you think should be the 11s for India and Australia. Let us know who you're supporting. I'm pretty sure we'll have the majority India, but you never know. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, follow us on social media. All the links are in the link tree in the description. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.